Have you ever found yourself ticking off those self-care boxes like a mani-pedi or a quick coffee break, yet still feeling drained and unfulfilled? What if everything you thought you knew about self-care was just scratching the surface? We'll talk about that and more after this break. Hello and welcome to the Making of Mompreneur show. I am Rasheeda Green. I'm the coach of this I'm sorry y'all. I'm just so excited about today's show. Excuse me. So, I am Rasheeda Green. I am the CEO of Get Right Coaching, the host of this wonderful Mompreneur HQ community, and the founder and creator of the Digimonpreneur Academy, where we help moms who are just destined to start growing scale online businesses so that they can build the life of their dreams without neglecting themselves or their families in the process. And we do that through coaching, content, community, and now through the Digimonpreneur Academy. And we are excited about today's show. Why? Because we have a special. I want you to put in the comments below hashtag live if you're joining us live and hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. Either way, we love you. We thank you for joining us, and we are happy to have you with us. Now, we've been talking about self love September. That is our theme for the month. And keeping in line with our theme, we are having a show today about self care versus self maintenance. Know the difference. If you are ready, make sure you have your pen, paper, or digital device to take some copious notes because we're going to have that kind of a conversation. It's going to be real live, real raw conversation. But even in that, there are some nuggets and some things that you may not have known before that you'll learn today. So, again, get ready. I'm introducing our guest who is not only making waves in the world of mental health and education, but also bringing laughter and joy to audiences everywhere. Asia Bennett is an accomplished and passionate professional with a proven track record in administering, scoring, and interpreting psychological assessments. Her creative thinking, problem solving abilities, and effective communication skills have made her a dedicated advocate for student success, particularly in the areas of academics, social interactions, and emotional development. As a trauma and crisis certified professional, Asia has a solid background in organizational skills and motivation. She's adept at facilitating social skills groups and ensuring compliance with educational protocols, all while bringing a wealth of knowledge in mental health, learning, and behavior to help students thrive in every aspect of their lives. But that's not all. Asia is also a talented comedian about to celebrate a remarkable 10 years in the industry. And she's also a versatile actor. Her unique blend of professional expertise and comedic talent makes her a dynamic and inspiring figure. And that's not all. She's my sister, y'all. So you know she coming with the funny and knowledge because that's how we roll. We are a bunch of just smart, funny, and sexy siblings, just so that you know. And I am so excited to dive into our conversation today. Please join me in welcoming my sister, Asia Bennett, to the show.
Hi everyone. Hey sis, I love that introduction. First, let me thank you for that amazing introduction because I was trying to figure out who you was talking about. I was like, and then you said beautiful. I'm like, I got my turban on today. I'm just giving all the cards. Okay. But yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that amazing welcome. Like I never get that ever. So it's the most wonderful words I heard from my mom.
You know that you are my sister, and you know this is how we gonna roll. This is how we gonna roll. So if nobody gonna do it, it's gonna be me.
That's right.
Anybody's gonna do it. So I am so glad to have you on the show with us. Thank you again for joining us in this Self-Love September. As I read in the introduction, you are more than qualified to have this conversation with us mom entrepreneurs today. So I know I did such a great job on your introduction, but if you want to share something specifically today as we are discussing self-care versus self-maintenance, if you want to just start off with just letting us know a little bit about what we're going to be discussing today.
Okay, first off, let me just say thank you again for that welcome, and it's a great honor to be a presenter today. And yeah, Self-care versus self-maintenance is very important for moms, because as moms we wear so many hats, and we're trying to be, you know entrepreneurs, and we're setting goals for ourselves. So you want to make sure in the process of taking care of everyone else in the world and all the hats that you wear, that you make sure you take care of your crown, and that you make sure that you're taking care of yourself both inside and out. With that being said, I wanted to expound upon self-care and the difference between self-care and self-maintenance. They're so close, to the point where you don't know what category to put what in. Like, will you say spa is self-care, or is it self-maintenance? Things like
Mhm.
that. You're trying to figure out which category would I put those things in. I would, state that, self-care is basically relaxation with the intent to relieve stress and to focus on an overall goal that you may have, or to put your mind state in a relaxed state, but with focus and intention to be caring for yourself. Because when you say care, when you care for someone, what are you doing when you care for someone? It's a caregiver is someone that's giving special attention to a person's needs. When you're giving your self-care, is paying attention to those needs that you have. And that can be more than just, and that's where the tricky part come in with self-maintenance, because you people say, I have my self-care, I get my nails did, I go to the sleep, I get my nails did, I go to get my hair did. Those things are self-maintenance. Those activities are the things that you need to do to take care of yourself and keep yourself the beautiful queen that you are,
Right.
while you're maintaining your normal life.
Right. Thank you for sharing that because one of the questions I was going to ask is that self care, it comes up with so many myths in self-care versus self-maintenance, right?
Right.
So, and one of those myths you just basically broke down was about going to the nail salon. That's something that we almost do mindlessly in a way, which means it's not self-care because we've taken out the intention to relieve stress and to relax, right? It's now just part of our ritual.
Right.
Okay, every 2 weeks, I gotta get my nails done because I don't want them lifting. Not
Right.
because I wanna get my nails done,
Things
because
to
that is
beautify you.
stress
Mhm.
relief. It's just something that we do as part of maintenance.
Right.
So that's awesome that you opened us up with that. That really does help to break it down. And one of the things you mentioned was as moms, busy, constantly running, always doing, we kind of lose the self-care aspect at times and really just focus on the maintenance part of, and I can't even say focus on the maintenance parts because there are times we just don't even get to the maintenance, right? We're so busy caring about everyone else, we don't necessarily get to go get our hair done, go get our nails done, go to the spa, or take that extra walk outside, go for a mile run or jog because hey, we got things to do.
Right. You busy and booked. Booked and busy.
Yeah, booked and busy, right.
Right.
We kind of think that might be self-care, but we don't even get to that. What are some suggestions or ideas that you have about how we can fit more self-care into our daily routine?
I feel like you definitely have activities that you can schedule in that are self care. For example, finding a mental health provider and actually getting therapy is a form of self care. So you can make an appointment, like you make appointments for everybody else. So now you're scheduled in to take care of your mental health, because often we think of physicality when it comes to caring, because everything is, generally related to the outward appearance. This is the age of social media, so image is everything.
Mhm.
So when you associate caring for yourself, it's always, I'm going to get my hair done because when I look good, I feel good. But are you really good?
Mm,
So mental health will take you into the direction of understanding that caring for yourself is really getting to know who you are and taking care of your mental health so that you can be a stronger individual to better aid the people around you, such as your family and your loved ones.
that's great. And that also, it just really does speak to what we've been talking about in Self-Love September, pouring from an empty cup, right?
Mhm.
So, if you're mentally drained, Now, we, of course, sometimes it can be on physical drain on 24/7. Like we
Right.
don't get enough sleep, we don't get the proper meal, proper meals, and so we're already physically drained. But then we add on the topical layer of the deeper layer of mental exhaustion. Right? We're not really caring for ourselves mentally. Things are piling up in our mind, whether it be some past hurt or some trauma, or even just the stress of day-to-day living, and we don't address it, we don't take
Right.
care of it, and then it mounts, and then we have an even bigger problem. We can't serve the people that we want to serve. And even as entrepreneurs, mom entrepreneurs, we have that aspect of being a mom, and we have that aspect of being a business owner, and we try to meld it, but sometimes it doesn't actually go as smoothly as we plan. And if we're honest, we're trying to do too much.
Right.
And when our brain says enough is enough, that can become so many things, an explosion, so to speak, of emotions, irrationality, all kinds of things can happen if we don't address those things that are mounting up in our mental health that we need to address. And it doesn't have to be even bad, right?
No.
Um, it could just be something that we just haven't dealt with that just impacts the way that we react to people, the way that we handle different situations, how we avoid certain situations, right?
Mhm.
So talk to us a little bit more on the mental health side.
See, yeah, and that's a great point. Great points that you brought to the table. Also, when it comes to mental health, there's always like a negative connotation. You're going there because you have to be going through something. We're all going through something. So we go there as if you would go to the doctor. If you had anything wrong with your physical doctor, you'll go there. But this is more when it comes to mental health, this is more therapeutic. So it's not like you're doing to develop more of a relationship. And when you get what you need, then you're healthy. But it's mainly understanding that we're more than just physical because we do a lot of physical things in our days and we get mental health and how we have high, diabetes, we have a lot of heart disease, we have a lot of illnesses that are caused by mental health. So if we continue, and it's high rates, especially in particular for African American women, so if we continue to ignore the connection between our mental health and our physical health, these numbers will continue to rise. We have to take care of our mental health because we are impacted by the things that happen in our lives, anxiety, depression, because when your business may not be going the way that you want it to go, you may feel some type of way. You're trying to do the best you can. You're putting all the work that you can put in. These things may begin to weigh in on you mentally. And although it's something that will pass, you may, try, hang in there. And also, again, understanding that mental health is different from spirituality. Some people find different ways to cope or think that, can cope with different coping mechanisms. But, you have to take care of overall wellness, which includes your mind, body, soul, and your spirit. So it's a collective activity that has to take place.
Thank you for bringing that spirituality part up, because sometimes it's a coping mechanism and then sometimes it's a crutch, right? We're
Mhm.
PKs, right? We're
Right.
PKs. So we grew up in the church. We are Christians,
Mhm.
and we know and believe that God is the answer, and he died for us, and we can go to him, and for anything, we can go to God for anything. We can trust God with anything, and he can handle it all. We know that, we believe that. But one thing is, in the church realm, sometimes it's shunned. I mean, now we're in the 21st century, so maybe not as bad, maybe it's not as drastic. But people, when they said back in the day that they were going to therapy, like you said, the automatic instant is you crazy. Or in the church world, it's like, what? You better be trusting in God. God is the only one that can heal it, right? But can you even touch on that, since the whole PK and the therapist in one person? Can you touch on that as well?
Definitely. Yes, as you stated that when you're conditioned to a church and you've been raised in church, you are raised with the ideologies and beliefs that you that God is, and that is what it is. However, you can do that and still take care of your mental health, meaning that you may still have anxiety, And that is a real thing that, when to be dismissive of anxiety and depression, you know, is just not copable. We have to understand, even in spirituality, that nobody is perfect. So even as you're walking in those perfections, you will still need a pastor to maybe guide you and give you therapy. You will still need a therapist who have a background in psychology, because sometimes people have disorders that and they're going undiagnosed. So you can be suffering with something that the pastor and the spirituality really is deeper than that. So you may need a little bit more assistance in those areas. Those disorders are real. If you have another disease that may not be outside the mind, it's real. But when you have a disease in the mind or a disorder, it often gets looked upon. If you don't see it, it doesn't exist. Just like the sins that you commit that are in your mind that are very real. But ultimately there are sins that you do see. So the same thing goes with the physicality of how in nature you see things, and then in mind you don't see what's going on in somebody's mind, what doesn't become real, so to speak. But so we have to take care and understand that our spirits need to be fed as well as our minds, because the mind is in the body. The Bible also talks about renewing of your mind. So there's things that tell you have to renew your mind, and things you have to do. So it's all tied in together, but you definitely have to know that there's a difference and to take care of both.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, this is getting good. If y'all agree, go ahead, put in the comments below. Wherever you are watching, make sure you let us know how you're feeling in the comments so that we can keep this conversation going about our self-love September. And today, again, we have on the show with us Miss Asia Bennett, who is speaking to us and letting us know the difference between self-care and self-maintenance. Now, going back to your professional occupation, balancing professional responsibilities with students and families through trauma and crisis, how important is real self care in the healing and recovery process?
Yeah, it's very important. When you're constantly working around trauma and dealing with, I'm a school psychologist, so I deal with meeting parents, classifying, children and placing them in programs for their special needs. So it's a lot of roles and responsibilities. Also, there's a lot of trauma. Like today in Atlanta, there was a school shooting in the high school. You have things that are occurring in school environments that you know, you just never know that,
Right.
were, popular years ago, but it's becoming a trend today. So you have to be prepared when you go into school for something more than just being prepared to educate a kid today. The responsibilities are way deeper. It's more real. And it's a sad shame that we've come to this point in society, but being an educator is more than just being an educator, and working in any capacity in the educational field is a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. So it's very important. People often say, why teachers get 2 months off? They got 2 months off and the kids need 2 months off because it's overwhelming. You
Yeah.
have to squeeze so much information into a child's head in so much amount of time. And not only just one student, but children, 30 children in the classroom at times. It's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of depression that goes into what it is that we do to help our children and our future. Therefore, making sure that we have those months off and those days off are critical to the overall well-being of a teacher, because in order to, you know, pour out, you have to be filled. You want to keep yourself, provide self-care for yourself as much as possible, vacations, things like that, to keep yourself um, in a relaxed state, and manage yourself, organize yourself, really, don't overwhelm yourself with too much responsibilities without making sure you take increments of self-care. Like, those things are important. And even no matter what you're doing, make time for yourself.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. And you mentioned the children needing some self care as well. And one of the things that we're building here in Mompreneur HQ is legacy, right? We're legacy building. And so if we're teaching our children how to be, giving them work ethic, how to start their own business, or how to be independent and be innovative, one of the other things we should probably do is model self-care so that they don't get so wrapped up in the hustle and grind of every day. Oh, because they saw mommy doing that, right? We have to, as moms and entrepreneurs, to be able to get that balance and that work life harmony in a way that when our children are growing up and watching us do these things, that they are picking up, oh yeah, mommy took care of herself. Oh, mommy went to the therapist. Oh, versus back in the day, growing up without that model, rather, and just overwhelming yourself. And then next thing you know, we're having a lot of the increase in depression. And what's the other? I was trying to think of the softer word, but we're ending ourselves, because at such alarming rates,
Right.
because we haven't dealt with the trauma. We haven't been modeled the right way to handle certain. I mean, there's no right way to handle trauma, but to be able to make sure that we're dealing with these things that are happening in our lives that we may not be happy with, but being able to know that we have the option to speak to someone, I think that's really crucial as well as
Absolutely.
moms.
Mhm.
So I wanted to also bring in your acting. Tell us about this. Give us a little bit about acting and comedy, because I did mention that you are about to celebrate 10 years in the comedy industry. So tell us a little about the other life of Asia Bennett.
Yes. A part of my self care is me being a comedian. I feel that, you should do what you want to do, and never limit yourself. You have to be the model. You have to be that person that says, I'm going to do, I could be smart and I could be, educated and all, but I still like to have a good time and I'm still funny and a good person. I'm a five. So I'm still able to take care of myself by unapologetically being myself. And so comedy is a form of me just saying, this is me, this is who I am. I love it to laugh. And I'm really excited. It's been 10 years. I've had an amazing career. I've just did two. This is my second movie. Yeah, it's supposed to be a show coming, but we won a Dallas Movie Festival. It's in Paris, Laundromat, great director, God's Will by Eric Brooms. That's on Prime Video and Tubi and all those, Amazon, all those great streaming platforms. So I'm just starting to get my foot in, the soil, so to speak. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's been great. I've never auditioned for anything, so it's kind of just happening. The opportunities are coming to me, so I'm just trusting in God and just going with the flow. But really, just really appreciating who I am and just enjoying life to the fullest, like not leaving no stone left behind. I want to be able, if my gift is making people laugh, I want to be able to help people utilize my gift. If my gift is singing, if my gift is, I want to, make sure that I pour out as much as I can and enjoy, every aspect of life that I can.
That is beautiful and a great way to wrap up our show. Asia, you have been very insightful. Like I said, y'all better put them hashtags, put those comments about those nuggets that you've gained and appreciation and understanding. Whatever you've learned that you want to share in the comments, we really appreciate it if you do that. But Asia, thank you for being on the show with us.
Having me.
But yes, so we like to ask like a quick fire session where we ask a couple of questions back to back and see how you respond so that we get to learn a little bit more about you beyond what we can see or the intro that we gave. As I ask you the question, just give us the answer real quick.
Okay.
Starting with coffee or tea,
See,
spring or summer,
spring.
Apple or Android. I thought I would just throw that in there because we got some people,
Oh, don't even start me on the Apple Android thing.
Exactly, Miss Asia. I think you muted yourself.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sorry.
okay, there you go. All right. Thank you for partaking in that. Now, as we're wrapping up our show, self care versus self maintenance, know the difference. Do you have any last minute tips or suggestions that you want to share with the group?
I just want to make sure that everybody is just, making sure you take care of yourself. You can always practice self care, self maintenance, but always make sure that you're on top of your game when it comes to taking care of you. If you're not there for you, you can't be there for anybody else. So take care of yourself and take care of your mental health. Follow me on, Instagram, AJAB Labs. Yeah, I need more followers. As you can see, I'm struggling if you go there. Okay. I need help. Okay. I've been busy. I got a couple degrees. I've been moving around. I haven't had time to really, take care of that. But if you follow me, spread it along. I really appreciate it.
Said like a true comedian because it just laughed over even that request to follow. Yes, people. All right, Mompreneur HQ community, make sure that you go ahead and follow Miss Asia B Laughs at Instagram as she grows her community, where she shares the funny and current events. I know that was one of the things that you were working on. As you check her out, like she mentioned a couple of movies. If you go on her Instagram, you'll be able to see those titles once again. And also, she's going to be celebrating her 10-year anniversary. So if anybody is local to the New York, New Jersey tri-state area, be on the lookout for any shows that she may be doing in these coming months. Again, thank you for joining me. That's my baby sis, y'all.
Thank
Um,
you.
um, if there's nothing else, until next time.
Okay, bye.